The question I'm going to ask you guys is, how many of y'all have ever had the living shit triggered out of you by a family member? Yeah. Okay. So if you didn't raise your hand, you're just full of it yourself, right? So my favorite quote ever, it's by the coolest guy. His name is Ram Dass. Maybe you've heard of him, yeah? And it goes a little something like this. You think you're enlightened? Go spend a week with your family. Have you heard this one? Yeah, he didn't say it for no reason. Because spending time with family can regress you to childhood patterns and behaviors at light speed. One moment, you're in Spain on the beach sharing charcuterie with your sister. And the next moment, you're trying to slap her with a salami. I know this because this is what happened to me. In April of 2023, I walked the Camino de Santiago. It's a historical pilgrimage, 535 miles. I did this with my mother, my brother, and my sister across the entire north coast of Spain. 535 miles. We started up at the French border near San Sebastian. We walked down through like 5 weeks of torrential downpours over 5 million mountain ranges all the way to Santiago. And for those of you who can't math, it's 20 miles a day with my family. So let me just start by explaining why the heck I would voluntarily do this to myself in the first place. I have a master's degree in psychology and a long history in trauma and somatic studies. And the one thing that I've always been fascinated by in the psychology realm is a little something called repetition compulsion. Have you guys heard of this? It's trauma reenactment. It's the unconscious tendency to repeat painful experiences from our past. Our bodies, our nervous systems, they store traumatic memory, and they are literally drawn to situations that have hurt us before, almost like a magnet pulling us in. So the question is, why do we keep repeating insane behavior, expecting to get different results? Why do we keep walking towards suffering? And the answer to this question is because our bodies are trying to heal what's unhealed. They are trying to complete a healing cycle. Staying alive and healing is the biological imperative of our body-brain system. It's literally what our cells want to do the most. So unconsciously, we keep putting ourselves in situations that echo the original event, attempting to get a different result so we can understand it, but ultimately so we can resolve the trauma. And this right here, my friends, is also how I ended up on this pilgrimage in the first place with my family, repetition compulsion. So when I was a kid, my father robbed a bank. He went to prison. He was gone. Left my mother as a single mother, 3 children, working to make ends meet, so I didn't get to spend that much time with her. I also had an older sister. She's right here, front and center, Leah. And we had a very tough relationship, which is just something, this happens between older sisters and younger sisters. And it's also something that happens when you don't have attuned caregivers, everyone's in survival mode, and you got to compete for resources with each other, like love and attention. So my trauma response to my childhood was to become hyper independent. Ask my husband. He's here, staunchly independent, because no one could hurt me or let me down if I didn't need anyone. But the truth was, I did need them. And their absence would leave a massive wound in me. My whole life, I felt unlovable. And I carried that story in my bones for years, and the insidiousness of it leaked into every aspect of my life. Okay, so we're going to fast forward to 2023, and my shoulder freezes up from spending way too much time on the computer. I go see my massage therapist, Ying. Ying says to me, Lauren, you need to get off the computer, and you need to go change your body position, go on a really long walk. And right in this moment, I have this like full-blown somatic memory of being a teenager and my mother wanting to disappear from her own life, which I now understand, and go on a really long walk, a pilgrimage across Spain called the Camino de Santiago. And in that moment, I know that's what I'm going to do. I am going to walk across Spain. I am going to complete my mother's dream. But then in the next moment, repetition compulsion comes in hot. It just steals the show, takes over. This is how you can heal your childhood trauma. You have to bring your entire family on a pilgrimage to Spain where no one can abandon you. And like a crazy person, that is exactly what I did. Okay, so it's mid-April. My sister and I, we are in the region of Cantabria, and it's about 2 weeks into the walk. And mom and my little brother Danny, they're behind us a few miles when my sister and I, we get into this massive fight about who even cares because it doesn't even matter. What matters is we quickly revert to our childhood patterns, which is me being a freaking angry tyrant about her not paying attention and her telling me I'm a selfish little brat. Turns out, Ram Dass, he was onto something when he said what he said, right? And I can't tell you how many times her and I have repeated this scenario. And now here we are. We are middle-aged ass ladies. We are over 40. We are walking a quote unquote spiritual pilgrimage. And I get pissed because how dare she call me selfish when I just brought her to Spain? Isn't it ironic? So things escalate quickly, and I turn into this fire-breathing baby dragon. And the fight goes from this dumb argument to me slingshotting a tube of salami at her. And then I take off running while she screams at me to not leave. I leave anyway, and this is also our pattern. She fights, I flight. And this is also why our relationship has been so dang challenging. Ever since our 20s, she's called me a stonewaller. She was the first person on the entire planet to use that term. She may have made it up herself. This is also the pattern of my mother, stonewalling, bailing when things get hard and shutting people out. And surprise, surprise, this is also the anatomy and construction of my very avoidant attachment style where I completely dodge emotional intimacy. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Exactly. Okay, so I wrote my master's capstone on long distance walking in nature and psychological resilience. And research studies about these pilgrimages, they consistently say the same thing, that they foster mindfulness, contemplation, and self-reflection. And it's really the introspection that is so transformative for people on these walks because it gives them the time and space to process their lives, their histories, their social narratives, their psychological narratives, and having that space to process is totally antithetical to modernity. And this is really how long distance walking influences resilience, because these walks are about accountability and self-confrontation, which means taking a very long, hard look in the mirror. And this is the exact experience I had about an hour after trying to launch that tube of salami at my sister's head. So on my little walkabout, after I take off running away from her, I walk up it to this big crack in the stone cliffside. It's called a Bufones. It's like this giant cavernous limestone blowhole that creates a tunnel all the way down to the ocean. I'm curious, so I stick my head inside. I want to see what's going on in there. And all of a sudden, the churning water just becomes this like clear, calm, crystalline water, and all I see staring back at me is my face, my own reflection. And I was so surprised by this. I stepped back, but repetition compulsion. I had to look again. So I stick my head inside. Me, just me, my face, my reflection. And at that moment, on this walk, alone in nature, facing my own reflection, it all became very clear. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe my sister was right. Which no one ever wants to be true, right? Maybe I am a stonewaller. Maybe our dynamic is not just about her, but it's about me too. And I realize I am the one always running away, which is keeping us trapped in this toxic sibling cycle. So I decide to face the harshest reality no one ever wants to face, that I am the actual problem. Just like the lyrics to the T Swift song Anti-Hero. We can sing it. Hey, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. And it got me thinking about how we can't ever heal our relationships if we aren't willing to confront our own role in the dysfunction. You know, We can never become healthy adults if we don't stop acting like wounded children. And so, for the remaining 15 miles of this walk, I realized that the fighting and my never-ending Houdinis were never due to a lack of love, but rather the intolerable pain from wanting to love and not knowing how. The truth is, no one taught us how to love. We were only shown how to run from it. But on that day, I could finally see my role, me, in the family dynamic. And even though the story of our childhood was never my fault, the story of our future was still unwritten. I desperately wanted a new chapter with my family, and I was willing to walk across an entire country for a shot at that. So that night, my sister and I were reunited, and she reaches her hand into her pocket. She pulls out a box. I have a prop. She says, "Lauren, this is a peace offering." And I open the box, and inside is a compact mirror. A compact mirror. And it was this one, actually. I still have it. And my first instinct is to get so freaking pissed because what on earth sort of condescending BS gift was that? But instead of getting pissed and running away, flighting like I always do, I just paused and I took a breath and I considered, maybe it really was a gift. Maybe it really was a peace offering. But also maybe, just maybe, my sister and my entire family are the real mirrors, showing me all the parts of myself I needed to feel in order to heal. So I just said, "Thank you." And I watched as her armor melted off immediately. I'd finally interrupted my own historical pattern, and this truly was the first moment of a new dynamic with my sister and my family. So that night, we drank a bottle of wine. It was chocolate. Do you guys know what chocolate is? It's the best white effervescent wine from the Basque Country, and we didn't talk about what happened. We didn't need to. We just needed to stay together, not run, and to keep walking forward. So that's exactly what we did. You know, we both realized that this journey, it was never really about the walk, but it was about healing our childhood wounds, our childhood trauma, by giving ourselves and each other what we never got as children: trust, safety, and connection. These walks really have become our pathway to reparenting ourselves and each other. So since then, we've walked all over Europe, all over California. We even summited Half Dome together. And I'm proud to say I've never thrown a salami at her ever again. And don't get me wrong, these walks, they've definitely not fixed everything. Everybody is still like very, 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 very much unenlightened. But they were definitely a step in the right direction and a massive step toward family and generational healing. We can only grow into our future when we finally grow out of our past. But in order to do that, first we need to look in the mirror. We need to confront ourselves. And a really long walk or any distance walk, great place to begin. So maybe for you, the healing that needs to be done, it's with yourself, your family, your personal relationships, or someplace else entirely. But regardless, the question I want to leave you with is this: what are you willing to walk 500 miles for? Thank you.